audio and visual podcast, a weekly discussion about all things guitar building and some random tangents as well, featuring members of the Guitar Builders Collective from all around the world. The Guitar Builders Collective is a like-minded group of individuals that have come together to share their experiences, knowledge and inspiration for guitar building. Each week you can join us in the live YouTube chat or catch up at a later point. It's also available as audio where you'll miss out on seeing our lovely faces and some of the visuals we share along the way. You can also find the Guitar Builders Collective via our forum, over on Instagram where we share images of members' builds. We've got a thriving Facebook group, and we do hope that no matter what your experience and knowledge is, you'll become a welcome member of this community too. Hello, welcome everyone.
Hey.
Fantastic. Look, today is slightly different to normal in that we've got two guests on, a returning guest, a new guest, and particularly we wanted two people on because we wanted to have a bit of a theme for today's show, which is about Crimson Guitars and doing a course at Crimson Guitars. So look, before we even get into introductions and everything, just want to let you know why Crimson Guitars is so important to all of us. The Guitar Builders Collective, if you don't know, was a group of people that initially just met online through chatting in comments in response to videos and Instagram posts, etc. Mainly coming together through something that Crimson set up during the lockdown period during COVID, which was the Great Guitar Build-Off. So Crimson has sort of been integral to the formation of the Guitar Builders Collective. We've had Sean from Crimson on in the past. In fact, he's coming back next week, but we'll talk more about that a bit later. So we do still have a connection with Crimson. So it was great when we found out there's a couple of people that I really wanted to get on the show anyway that have recently done a course there. So for those of you that are watching live, you can see our faces. I'll just let you know if you're listening who's here. We've got myself in the UK from Devon & Sons Guitars, and also Dave below me from Footstep Guitars. Fantastic. And then we've got Scott from Bonehead Guitars. So the three of us are on here quite regularly. And then we're joined this week by Ray Baggett, who is currently in America, but seems to be a worldwide traveller. Ray's been on before, but one of our first guests, I think. And in the video description and the podcast description, I put links to that previous episode if you want to find out more about him and more about his guitars in more detail. And then we've got Cade from Ravencroft Guitars, who's based in Canada. First time here. Welcome, Cade.
Thank you.
Also, though, we've got our live chat for the people who are watching live on YouTube. And I know in the chat we've got Rob Toothill, who has also been to Crimson. In fact, he's been there twice, so he might chip in with some comments about his experiences too. So great. Maybe we should just start off, though, with finding a bit about Cade and Ray and how you got into guitar building. And what I'll do throughout, although not necessarily for the people that are listening, but I will share images from your Instagram pages. Again, links to those in the description. So Cade, first time being here, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Sure.
How did you get into guitars and guitar building?
So I've been playing guitar since I was like 15. I wanted to be Kurt Cobain so bad, and then I didn't have the hair anymore. And but I started building guitars. I built my first one right out of high school with my dad. It's just like a project to do together. There you go. Just as something to do together because I always wanted a telly, and I could never afford one, and I thought it'd be cheaper. And by the time I realized I was wrong, it was too late. And then took a little bit of a break for university and everything like that. And then right at the start of COVID, my wife and I bought our first house, and all of a sudden I had a garage to fill with tools and things like that. Yeah. And it was just a kind of slippery slope from there. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool to have something you want to do with your dad. Have you still got that guitar by any chance?
I do. Yeah, it's that one. The one. Yeah.
Amazing. We were joking off air, which we'll get to a bit later, about Telecasters. But is there something about the telly that you like that drew you to it? Because as a Nirvana fan, I wasn't sure if you'd be drawn to something more Jag-like.
Yeah, more Jag. Yeah, no, I've always liked the telly. I like the sound. The shape is fine. It's whatever. It's nothing too spectacular or anything like that. But as I've kind of gotten older, a lot of the bands I listen to are kind of more of that like almost bluesy kind of influence. And so yeah, some of that single coil sound is just great, and I just love tellies. Don't know why.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think I first came across your guitars during what we mentioned before, the Great Guitar Build-Off during the lockdown. So you've got your garage, you've got your space for tools. Were you already aware of Crimson and sort of the online building community? People like Scott that have been making videos for ages.
I've been watching Crimson forever. Like I think I started watching them. I want to say they were doing the Bog Oak Resin River guitar. Was like one of the first ones that I watched. So yeah, I've been watching them for a really long time and just like kind of following along. And then when Great Guitar Build-Off came, I started like on other people's channels. That's when I found like Scott or Todd and Sweet Tea and like that. And yeah, just kind of fell into the community. The very first Great Guitar Build-Off, I didn't take part, but I followed along anyways, so I kind of took part. And then as soon as they like opened it to the public and everyone, I jumped in and made some monstrosity with resin and coffee beans that weighs about a ton. So
I remember that one.
Yeah, I remember it well. I found it so interesting watching you do that as well, because it was so experimental to go straight in and make something that was not like off the bat simple. I thought was brilliant.
I still have coffee beans super glued to my furnace room floor that will never come off. They'll be sold at the house someday. So.
Look, if you don't mind reliving all of that, we will definitely talk about that later, because I know Ray can't stay for the whole time necessarily, so we'll get back to really focusing on you and your guitars in a little bit. I do want to ask you though, before we do that, one of the things that I've really found interesting about the guitars you've built is not designing standard shapes, but designing more interesting shapes. Maybe do you mind just telling us a bit about how that came about, how the moving from a normal design to something more ergonomic came into play?
So the first one that I built that I did like a custom design was like an Explorer that I just like added some curves to here and there, and it was just like, well, if I'm going to build something, I want it to be mine. I don't want it to be a carbon copy of somebody else's.
Right.
But after that, for one of the later Great Guitar Build-Offs, I built a guitar for a young guy with cerebral palsy. So we had to do a bunch of accommodations to fit like his physical needs and stuff like that. And one of those was fitting the body into the arms of his wheelchair. And once I kind of did that, it was kind of eye-opening in terms of like, well, the sky's the limit, right? Like if I can make a guitar for him, I can probably make anything I want. And really, there's no real restrictions. As long as you have enough room for pickups and whatever other hardware you need, you can do pretty much whatever you want. So I just started running with it from there.
I've just shared a picture of that guitar. Yeah, because it's pretty obvious, I guess, that with a standard guitar, it's just bog standard shape that will hopefully fit everyone. But as we've talked about before, like Les from Godfrey Guitars last week was talking about, when you make a custom guitar, you get to work with the customer to make sure everything suits them. So as soon as you have someone that has a different need, like playing with basically arms of a chair next to you, there's going to be limitations that come across from other guitars. So it's great to see how you work through all that.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I'll just, while we're here, before we get on to Ray, this is your Crimson guitar, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, do you want to tell us a bit about what you actually built at Crimson then?
Yeah, so I did the 6-day course, and I built a semi-hollow telly, the P90 and humbucker from House of Tone, and yeah, other than that, things are pretty standard. I wanted to push the envelope a lot, but they were like, "You're only on a 6-day course, Kate, so calm it down a little bit." But we'll talk about it later. But I think in hindsight, I could have done a few more things, but. Yeah.
I guess when a teacher, this is something we're going to talk about next week when Sean's on, about how we teach guitar and expectations we might have with a student coming in. But if it's a student that you've never met before, you don't know what they're capable of. Exactly. So I guess putting that limitation of something simple in to start with is good.
Yeah.
And Kate, I'm right, you're a teacher as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I teach high school English.
Yeah, fantastic. So, just to say a few more things about the guitar for people listening on audio and won't be able to see it, can you tell us about the wood that you've used on the top and the sides, what the choices were?
Yeah, so it's a black limba body with a black walnut top, flamed sycamore neck with it's actually an ebony fretboard. I wanted zircone, but they didn't have any, but they had this super figured ebony piece that kind of has the same vibe. So,
and then how's it finished? Is it just finished with an oil finish to bring out
it's just their flash coat. Their 1 day kind of dries in like 45 minutes. Like it blew my mind when they were applying it. They're like, "Oh yeah, you'll have it like by the end of the day." I was like, "Oh, all right."
So is that applied with a gun then?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I need to find out about that. A 45-minute drying.
Yeah.
Looks as good as that. And then what I really like, which I will try and describe to people that are listening, but maybe you can correct me on some things, is it's like the pickup with the pickup rings that you've got. It looks like they're black pickups to match the black hardware, but that might just be the lights. They are.
They're black pickups, and then the pickup rings are wood. I believe it's ebony with maple around the outside.
Yeah, it just looks so smart.
It does look nice. Yeah, really nice.
So one of the things we'll talk about with Ray later is the sort of skills that you might have picked up there, because obviously you've built a few guitars before, but we'll try and find out if there are particular things that being taught help you find a different way of working, etc. But you were saying just off air again that you do, when you get to play, that's your go-to guitar at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Usually it was my go-to was either my Telly that I made like my very first one, just because it's like, I don't know, guitars get worn in, whether it's actual or just in your head. But yeah, it's nice and weathered to me. Or the Gresh that I won through Great Guitar Giveaway are kind of my go-tos before I got this one. But now that I've built this one, it's the Crimson guitar every time. So
hey, that's a key thing we've missed out. So what basically took place for you to allow to get to Crimson?
I won the course through Great Guitar Giveaway. So I got the course, 400 pounds of materials, and then accommodations, which is fantastic. Working on a teacher's salary, I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise.
Yeah, amazing. For those of you that don't know, that Crimson have a sort of spin-off site and YouTube channel where you buy raffle tickets for winning prizes. Often the prizes are guitars or guitar building tools, but in your case, it was the actual course there.
Yeah, it was there. It was funny because there was actually like a mix-up on air when they called out the wrong number. They drew my number but announced somebody else by accident, and they had to email me later on and be like, "Hey, sorry, you actually won. You're getting the prize, and here's the other guy we accidentally called. Now we have to give him a course because we already said that he won." So they ended up having.
Oh wow! Okay.
So that was nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So look, we'll get back to you and how the course went in a moment. I've also seen Rob's already chipped in the chat about the course that he went on. He did a 2-week course. That's going to be quite different. So yours was 6 days. And Ray, am I right? Your course was also a 6-day one.
Yeah, I did the 6-day. That was a good time. So my story is for that course was that I had signed up for the Crimson 6-day course. It's supposed to be March of 2020. And I signed up in late 2019.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Not a great time for travel.
That would literally be the very start of all the lockdowns, I think.
Yes, exactly. And then then I said, well, we'll delay till midsummer. I'll go in, July of 2020. It'll be fine then. No. So what happened is I ended up taking course credit, shop credit for my course fee, and I bought kit from Crimson, a bunch of tools. Decided to do it myself, and I designed my own first from scratch guitar at that time, and did that build in my basement. I go, well, I can figure this out. I'm an engineer. This will be fun. And little did I know that this was going to turn into something bigger than I had expected, and become an addiction, actually.
You travel so much for work, and you're not necessarily in the same space that you were when you first started. How many guitars have you managed to build then?
Well, see, the last year and a half, I've been living in Europe on a job assignment. I have a small apartment in Stockholm, and so I don't really have a workshop right now. That's how I ended up back at Crimson. I was getting the itch to build again, and we take a month off in summer, and I talked to my wife. I was going to come home visit, and I said, would you mind, terribly much if I spent the first week and went back to Crimson? She says, yeah, go ahead. When else are you going to do it?
Brilliant.
You're already there practically. So I thought that's great. So it was kind of returning to the base and the core of what I was doing, and it felt really, really weird in some ways. What I mean is, I'd walk through the halls there, and I would run into people who knew who I was. Through my YouTube channel, and oh yeah, Ray, it's good to finally meet you. Really? Okay, cool. Here I am in the middle of nowhere, England, and people know who I am. That was pretty cool.
But we talk a bit about those guitars they would have seen later on. I'm just going to share on screen the one you made at London. So maybe you could tell us a bit about what you made as well, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a 6-day course. Seeing the screen there. Oh yeah, there it is. I tell you, this is just a modern take on a Telly. Nice flamed sycamore top. Sean picked that out for me on a ash back with a maple neck, ebony fretboard. I did some unusual dot inlays, unusual size dot inlays on it. All hip shot tuners and bridge. It turned out, to be honest, it is really good. You guys build guitars, so there's some subtle differences between a really good guitar and a really bad guitar, right? And so you just, when you get done with it and you play it for the first time, you've done the setup. Yeah, that looks good, right? Even if it's simple, it just feels right in the hands, and the setup's good, and it just, I don't know. I've been playing that a lot. That thing's already been around the world once because it came back to the U.S. with me, and then back to Stockholm. So I really, really, really enjoyed it. So the unusual things about that, let's see, I've got a P90 in the neck position and a PAF in the bridge. The two knobs, one of them's volume and the other one is a selector. It's a three-way selector. I don't like tone. I mean, I rarely ever roll off the tone and go, oh yeah, that's better. So yeah, I just don't use it. So I wanted to have a simple layout. So I thought, okay, well, what if I did a rotary knob, and I brought in my hardware for that. But yeah, it's really, really good playing guitar. That was
again, for people listening, I've linked to Ray's Instagram, like I have to Cade, so you can see the pictures of it. So look, I remember meeting up with you just before you went there, because you came first to London,
awesome.
And then you were getting the train down to the Crimson headquarters. And I remember your nightmare story of you got all your parts that you wanted to take with in advance. So you had the case, and in the case you'd put your pickups, some tools your own that you wanted to take along to use. I think you had your tuning pegs, presumably the grid.
Yeah. Everything I needed, I put in the case and checked it, and had a tight connection in Brussels, and they lost it.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there in London going, okay, well, yeah, you'll have it on the next flight. No. The end result was I even went back to Heathrow to say, okay, really, it should be here. Yeah, you can't get past the phone to actually talk to somebody. But in the end, they ended up delivering it to me at Crimson the first day that I was there. And it was 3 days later when they found it. I was like, oh crap, what am I have to do? I had picked the pickups and everything specifically for this build, so I was a bit upset about that.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I'm not sure how best to share with both. That might be better. That looks better. Cade as well. What's the setup? Do they say to you need to bring these things in advance, or do they have everything there you need if you didn't?
So you can bring stuff if you wanted. Because of flying overseas and everything like that, I just told them, like, hey, this is what I want. If you can order it and have it ready for me. I figured that'd be a lot easier. So I just gave them, they sent me like a spec sheet, filled it out of what I wanted, and they just had everything sitting in a box when I got there. So
fantastic. Right. So for me, I'm just intrigued as how a course might run. But just before I ask you any questions, I know if there's anyone else in the chat, I can't remember if Owen is in the chat, who I can't remember if he did a course at Crimson as well. But if anyone is listening in the future, leave comments as well about what your course was like and how it ran. But I appreciate as well, Ray, your first day may have been different because you didn't have all the things you needed. But what actually happens on the first day?
Well, to be honest with you, they were very accommodating, and of course, the first days of building a guitar is all the woodworking. So I had selected all the materials I wanted. I'd worked with Sean in the office, and he had everything laid out for me. My bench was there. They had a little laser cut tag for where my bench was, and okay, this is where you're going to go. And had everything stacked up, all the hardware, anything I had asked them to get for me was there and organized. I thought that was really good. I had no idea what I was walking into, to be honest with you. But they had it organized, and we started on the body blank to start with. I had a nice piece of. They had book matched my top for me, but it was not glued down to the main body, so we had to do the body shaping and such. Now I gotta admit I cheated a little bit, or not cheated. I came in with a hand drawn exactly what I wanted to do. And it was a variant on a telly. I want to do this, and okay, we could do that. And then I went and grabbed a telly template. They have 100 templates, laser cut templates sitting on the wall. And I said, let me go grab that telly template. And I laid it over my design, and I'm like, 5 millimeters different here, 3 millimeters different there. I started looking at it. I'm like, yeah, I'm basically building a telly. Maybe I should just go ahead and use the templates.
Your original design, then the drawing was also in the case that got lost.
Yes, the drawing was in the case as well.
Hey. And Kate, what was your first experience like? If they had accommodation for you as well, did you arrive presumably the day before?
Yeah. So I arrived. So we flew out from Edmonton to Calgary to Dublin, stayed in Dublin for a night, then from Dublin to Bristol, then took the train down to Dorset. So literally planes, trains, and automobiles the whole way. I arrived there the day beforehand at the student house. kind of gave me the orientation and everything of all that jazz. And then the first day at the shop was start off with like safety stuff, like here's how you use a bandsaw and stuff like that, which was good for some of the people on my course. There were a few people that were also there that had never touched a drill before, which was interesting for them. And then we started on the neck, actually, started rough cutting all that. And the goal was to get the fretboard glued on by the end of the first day so that it had overnight to dry and everything like that. And then we did the body the second day. So a little bit different order of things than it sounds like Ray did.
I guess something we can ask Owen, but I guess that partly depends on the design of the guitar and things.
Yeah. I may have had the order a little bit backwards, but it didn't require me to have my stuff to start. I mean, it's basic woodwork to start.
Yeah.
And you ask, what did you learn? One of the things I told myself I was not going to do is walk in there and say, hey, I'm Ray. I've built 10, 12 guitars. Now, I know what I'm doing. I went because I know that I missed something along the way, and it would be something subtle, I think. So the main instructor when I was there was Dom. He was the one who was assigned to me, and he was really quite good. He was working his ass off. Dom was awesome.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, this is what I need you to do. Mark this here, and then take that out to the bandsaw, cut within a millimeter or two of the line, and then come back. And so okay, got it. And it was really good. The order of operations are slightly different than what I would have done, and I always pay attention to detail. My problem is I'll spend forever setting something up and thinking about it. I enjoy the process. And he goes, okay, yeah, go out there, make these cuts, come back, and we'll give you the next step. And I'm like, now just go do it. Yeah, just go do it. I'll meet you back here in 5 minutes. Oh, I would have spent, some time thinking about this, but which by the way, I was working right up into the last minute. I mean, I was working on the guitar. I was working up right up to the last minute, and it was the last day. We had just finished sanding the body down, and it was like, okay, it's on Friday, and at Friday at 5 o'clock they were shutting down the spray booth.
Yeah.
So I think it said at 3:30 we had to get the guitar hung so they could spray it and have it ready. And about 2:45 got the body finished sanding, and I had not done any stain.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. What do you want to do here? Well, I was going to do three levels of burst with the crimson stains, and I'm doing all this stuff. He's like, you got 40 minutes. So okay. Well, okay. So I actually backed off, but that was good. What I did was a mango, kind of an orange stain, heavy orange stain, and then did a full sandback on the orange, a full sandback, and then went back with a bright yellow, and overdyed with the yellow, and it just popped, and having to work quick and make sure you didn't, kind of get any bleed onto the sides and everything. Yeah, I feel pretty good actually, considering how fast. And it was like I'm sitting there doing my last little tweaks, kind of blending and buffing, and it's like, all right, we need to put a screw in the end of this thing. It's going into the shop, and I'm like, okay, done. Like I roped a cattle or something.
It looks really great for just 40 minutes of staining.
Oh, it turned out great. It looks good.
Yeah, I noticed Rob in the chat just said, look, he did the 2-week course, and he was the only one that managed to finish their guitar in the 2-week turnaround. Because, I mean, even 2 weeks sounds quite intense to make a guitar to me.
There was a guy there when I was there. a young guy from Alabama. He was there for, I think, a 2-month course.
Right.
And man, he was kicking out guitars and really, really good. And Caleb, I think.
Yeah. Caleb was there when I was there too. Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah. What they don't tell you, not what they don't tell you, if you stay for the longer courses, Crimson, they give you the tools, and they are kind of high-end hobbyist tools is what you're working with. Better than what I have in my shop, but not like full pro. But what they don't tell you is they have full CNC machining set up, and he was off designing stuff on his computer about half the time, doing inlays and whatever. I remember we were sitting there one day, and he was trying to do figuring out a rose inlay and what material to use for the rose. And I kind of looked over at it, you didn't ask, but if it were me, I'd do mother of pearl and make it a white rose. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you check Crimson's feed, you'll see a white rose guitar inlay. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. That guy was nice, and really, he stayed at the student's house where I stayed, and very, very, very smart young man. It was.
So I've got to ask, guys, what is it that you learned? I mean, can you name a couple of things that you really pulled out of this course?
So my biggest thing was definitely like fret work. It's one of those things that like you can teach yourself and you can do an okay job, but like to get it to that next level, either you're practicing for hours and hours and hours and hours, or you have someone who actually knows what they're doing sit down with you. And I think I learned more about fret work in the couple of hours that we were doing fret work on the course than any other time in my building career. So I learned a lot with that. And then I don't know, I didn't do anything too like new, I guess, with my build. Angled headstock was probably like the biggest thing that I had never done before, just because I don't have a big enough bandsaw at home. Well, I didn't. I picked one up on Facebook Marketplace, and now I can do one. But figuring out how to do an angled headstock and work out like that angle, and then doing like the router table and everything with that to get like the shape I want. So those were kind of the two big things that I learned that I didn't already know before.
How about you?
Yeah. So, what didn't I know? It's hard to say. I know I want some tools. One of the things I had handmade a fretting jig, fret cutting jig for a manual saw, and laid that out exactly right. Notched a scale, and it did all these nice things, and it works great. But when you have a radial arm saw with everything built in and jigged, and you go zing, 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 and you're done. That's cheating. You can't do that. Yeah, go about that deep, cut around here, then bring it back. We'll start raising. Oh crap! I've got to get me one of those.
Yeah.
That was good. I have to agree with the fret work. That was even though I was a little bit late in the day. I actually thought my fret work was pretty good, and I liked the details, and just paying absolute attention to the straightness of the neck and the fretboard before putting in the frets in, and then making sure your frets are set really well, and then I guess there's a caution in the fretwork that Dom kind of put to my attention, that it just kind of I don't know. The end result is it's one of the best playing guitars I have in terms of the frets. And now, by the way, I got to get myself a good buffing wheel.
Yeah.
You know, polishing frets. Oh man, just get a good buffing wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, man, because those things were glowing when it was done, and it was real good to see. Oh, the other thing was repairing mistakes. Now I did this inlay at the 12th fret where I did 2 regular sized dots and then a large, like a moon dot in the center that was, I don't know, half-inch diameter. And when you do something like that, you do 3 in a row and one's bigger than the other, and it's supposed to be centered on the fretboard. That is something that is, if it's off even by a tiniest bit, it will it won't look right. I mean, even half a millimeter, it just does not look right. There you go. Well, in any case, this was a somehow, and I'm not sure. I had measured to the gnat's ass just to get that exactly right, and somehow maybe it was a bad bit or whatever, but bit walked a little bit, and I ended up drilling the hole off center, and it was off by just a tad. And I'm like, oh man, this thing's ruined. It's not going to be right. And they're like, nah. Dom came over. He says, all right, this is what we're going to do. He just hand chisel, use the dot to trace the edge where we wanted to move it to, hand chiseled out based on that mark, and then moved it over, and then used the ebony dust to fill in on the other side.
Yeah.
You would have to know exactly what you're looking for. It's perfect. And the little repairs, I'd say little things where I messed something up. Yeah, I got my router depth set wrong once. Chewed up one of my pickups, but anyway, okay, I think I messed this up. What do we do here? Oh yeah, that's pretty common. Do this, and that's what I learned. I learned little bits and pieces.
I think.
But go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I think building guitars for myself, that's something, probably the most important thing I've learned is fixing mistakes, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those things. You realize with wood, you can pretty much fix anything. There is never a problem with it. Once you've got that in your mind, it makes the whole process so much easier. It takes some of the worry out of it. Okay, if I mess it up, I can fix that problem, and I have to fix a lot. Fortunately, but yeah. No, it's interesting you say that.
Right on.
So just to interrupt, we've got quite a few people in the chat that are asking questions, so I'm going to put some questions aside to come back to a bit later on, and welcome everyone that's new in the chat as well. There's already El Padre saying he's keen on doing a course at Crimson's. This hopefully can be useful for him. And if you missed it, we've got Sean on next week, who's one of the teachers there to talk about. And that's what I want to ask you both. So with the setup, it sounded like you both had maybe different teachers. Are there how many students are there at a time? It sounds like you're overlapping with other courses. Are they in a different room, like the 2-month course? Are there quite a lot of staff around? What's it really like being in the space?
So when I was there, I think there was 8 or 10 students. There were 3 that were there for like multiple months. And then the rest of us were there for a 6-day course. With that, there was 2 main instructors, Sean and Dom, but Sean had some personal stuff going on and was away for part of the day, so James stepped in. And while we're talking about staff, I have to say James is like the unsung hero of Crimson Guitars as far as I'm concerned. He does all of like the student coordinating and everything. And he was just an absolute rock star in terms of helping me with like logistics of international travel to the easiest ways to get to and from the shop to helping out and everything. Yeah, James was absolutely phenomenal.
Brilliant, because that was a question which we'll get to later about all the other parts of it, but the logistics, brilliant that there's someone there to support you through all that.
Yeah, he was pretty awesome. Pretty dang awesome. Very, very helpful setting things up when you don't know where you're going. Yeah. Even picking me up at the train station when I arrived, and we would commute back and forth together. Constantly playing Dream Theater at a high volume.
Rhymes like a
Oh, right. So there's music in the space when you work?
Yeah. Yep. They have some station on that's actually pretty good stuff.
Yep.
I'd say it's about 10, 11 guys when I was there. I think you were there 1 week after me, Kate.
Yeah, I was there right afterwards. And after I watched your video, we stayed in the same room of the accommodations. So.
Oh, yeah. So what's accommodation like?
It's like a town. Warm. Yeah, and then it's got different rooms. The room we stayed in was definitely the living room at one point, but now has a bed in it. And then there's like a shared kitchen area, and then just like a little seated patio thing. It's right beside Ben's house, so oftentimes you go out and like you're hanging out and having breakfast or whatever, and Ben comes out for a smoke, and he's there.
Yeah.
Well, listening to all this, I'm reminded of the fact that the first Crimson videos I saw, it was just Ben in his little garage.
Yeah.
All of this entire operation started with one dickhead in his garage, just like us.
Yeah, precisely.
He's scared for where I'm going to be in 10 years.
I don't
in my garage right now. So
I have delusions of that kind of level of grandeur, but it could happen. I mean, you know.
Ben, it is very interesting. Ben is, when you meet your, sometimes they say you never want to meet your heroes. And Ben is, I'd say kind of a hero to me because of I loved his YouTube channel. That's what got me into the highly customized stuff. I was customizing guitars long before Ben's channel, but doing really, really custom stuff was inspired by him. But when you meet him, he is like you'd think he would be. Very high energy, has a lot of ideas going on, a lot of things going on in his mind. And he showed me something. He said, "Hey, come take a look at this." And, all right, he hands me just this little tiny bit of wire, drops it into my hand. I'm like, okay, what do you think that is? All right, well, I don't know. It's like a chain, and it was really, really small. He says, yeah, it's part of a watch. He says, this was built 150 years ago. He says, and you have people saying that you can't do anything without a CNC nowadays, but this little timing chain was built 150 years ago. And he's the kind of guy that thinks about things like that and goes, what do you mean we can't do this? So I really enjoyed having some conversations with him. And it's you can't say, and just like you think, he's kind of distracted and always has lots of things going on. But it was really good. He didn't make it into the office much when we were there. He had his kids that week, so when I was there, so I didn't see him too much in the office. But he did make a round through the room. So if you're going just to Crimson and go there, you may or may not meet Ben. You'll meet a lot of good guys around the office, but you may not meet Ben. That's one thing.
What struck me was seeing your video, for example, Ray, that I just shared on the screen of being at Crimson. It must be a bit surreal going to somewhere that you've seen before on camera and things, but then now you're in real life. and how things join up, like different rooms probably are potentially the same room but different angles on the camera and stuff like that.
It was exactly that. It was bizarre. It's like, I'm actually here.
Oh.
Yeah, the Dorset Guitar Museum is the entrance to Crimson, at least right now. And if you go into the workshop, yes, it's exactly what you've seen on online. But if you go just one door down, they've got the studio.
Yeah.
And they have a really nicely set up modern studio with good lighting, multiple benches set up, and good microphones around the room, and a couple guys tending it. And that's where they're doing the guitar, the auction work, and also where they do the teardowns and everything, and where Ben has done many videos. And you're like sitting behind the curtain at Disneyland looking out, like, wow. And I was a little jealous of his video equipment, to be honest. I thought the studio was set up nice, and then they had the machining room in the back and the paint booth and everything. It's not a huge place, but I think it's really well organized, and yeah, it was really bizarre being there. I don't know how you felt about it, Cade.
It was definitely, I think, surreal is the good way to explain it. Like, I'm not a person who gets like starstruck or anything like that. Like, I've had the opportunity to like meet, like, for lack of a better term, like real celebrities and stuff like that through, I used to work security for concerts, and like I frequent like conventions and stuff like that. And so I've been able to meet a bunch of deals. But like walking into Crimson Guitars, and there's the complication just hanging out on the wall. And they're like, oh yeah, when you have a break at lunch, you can go and play it. Like, I'm allowed to touch it? Like that okay. And like seeing all these people that I've seen videos of, and like, I know who they are, and then weirdly enough, they know who I am, was kind of a weird experience. Yeah, getting to meet Ben, and like, I mean, he's just a guy, right? But like, he comes in and he's like, oh yeah, hey, and he starts naming off these builds that I've done. So like, as much as I know sometimes there's some feelings in the community that he's a little like disconnected, he's paying attention to what's going on. He follows people, he sees our builds and stuff like that. And then him and I had a big, long discussion about like Edgar Allan Poe and who has the oldest books of his works. And it turns out I win. I have something that's like 5 years older than what he's got. So, yeah, so it was just a very surreal experience, kind of all around.
Nice. Yeah, sorry, Scott.
I was going to say that kind of struck me, when Ray had said, people there knew him. It would probably be like one of the most famous places in my mind, and ironically, the one place on earth where there would be a lot of people who know who the hell I am.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were famous there. Oh yeah. By the way, I wore your Bonehead T-shirt into the shop.
I remember. I appreciate that. That was cool.
I wore a Texas Toast shirt once too, but Ben wasn't in the shop that day. I don't think that was good.
Looking for a fight, are you?
I like the idea that Scott made it to Crimson in one way. Then,
yeah, probably the only way I ever will. But shame.
I still think it's amazing that like I'm not a big fan of raffling for guitars. But then raising money for charities is hard, and we'll talk about that later because Cade is, and I've got links below for this, doing Movember, and some of that is partly linked to the Guitar Builders Collective and the charities that we're trying to support through leukemia foundations, etc. Also, Corey's doing it, and Chris from Franklin Guitars, so links to all their supports in the below. But yeah, raffling guitars does seem to be the best way to make accessible guitars for everyone when you're trying to raise money for charity. Because I've tried selling guitars through eBay auctions, but then it only goes to someone that can afford the total highest price. Yeah. So it does seem to make it there for all. But the great thing, like you said, Cade, how would you've got to do the course if it wasn't for that competition? So that is brilliant.
Yeah, like there's some people in the chat that are talking about like the costs associated with it, and like I'm not a good judge of that because I did have like my accommodations already paid for, and like I already had like 400 pounds worth of materials paid for and stuff like that. But like it was not a cheap trip. There, for food it wasn't bad. Like there was a grocery store like within walking distance of the student house, so I just went there and loaded up on stuff I can make sandwiches and like porridge and like pre-made soups and stuff like that. So I brought lunch every day and did all that. But like yeah, with travel and everything, like it's not cheap. So yeah, like being able to win the course and everything like that, like the only way I was ever going to be able to make it work. So
yeah, I would say it's not cheap. So when you say is it worth it to go there? Well, it depends what you mean. If you're saying, do I want to go there to build a guitar that'll be less expensive than going to the store and buying one? Absolutely not. But is it worth it to me? Well, it was vacation for me, and I had a great time. I needed to decompress from work, and that was exactly what I needed. And second, the result was really, really good, and the relationships and the fun we had was really, really good. So for me, yeah, it was definitely worth it. But it's not the cheap way to get a guitar built.
No, but if you think about like a holiday like that, that's a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was for me. It was vacation.
Yeah, when I was there was 2 guys from Ireland that were celebrating their 50th, and that was their trip. Was they were cousins or something, and they decided that instead of going on a cruise or getting drunk on a beach somewhere, we're going to go build guitars. And yeah, they had a blast, and we celebrated their 50th, which added to the cost. And my bleary-eyed, haze the next day. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's potentially celebrating 2 50th birthdays could end up costing as much as the course.
Yeah.
Look, I'm showing on screen some people saying how much they've spent, 3 to 5 grand on different courses, but that's also the 2-week course, the 1-week course. They do a 5-day, I think, as well as a 6-day. Yeah. And of course, we've already had mention in the chat that people have bought. Paul said when he went from Minehouse Studios that the wood was quite expensive, and Rob said he took his own wood on the second time. So I guess there's other ways to mitigate costs, but you're going there not just for experience, but for being taught by people that we think are leaders in the field with, as you've already said, great equipment, great setup. It's hard to gauge what a good cost for that is, but it seems reasonable to me.
You can't think of it in those terms. If you're saying I want to build a cheap guitar, you can buy cheap tools. I mean, that's what I did the first time. I just bought cheap tools and started building on my own. And it would be cheap once you have the basic tools. It's cheaper to go do it on your own, of course. I would kind of disagree that the wood was too expensive. I would say it was market price. The stuff that you were getting. It wasn't exorbitant. They weren't trying to make a lot of money on the wood or the hardware. Now, if you have a source that you already get a large volume of maple necks or whatever, I'm sure you could probably do better. But I will tell you that the stuff I got was really high quality. In other words, I just went back and looked. Just the other week, I went back and was working on the setup. Not really working on it. I was checking the setup, and the neck really had not moved. I mean, that's the trick. A couple months in, go back and check the neck. See, was the wood dry enough? Was it a good piece? And it was rock solid. And so, that's probably your most important part of getting the guitar right. So I'd say it was worth it. But that wasn't where getting there, staying in a student house was reasonable. I think it's just staying in a student house was reasonable. You could have stayed at another hotel. There's a hotel a couple miles down from Crimson. and you could have stayed there. That would have been a little bit more expensive, but closer. You're right. You can go get some groceries and put them in the. I felt like I was back in college, sharing an apartment with a bunch of guys. Everybody meeting down for breakfast in the morning and having some breakfast and getting off heading in. It was a good time, actually.
I guess that sounds like part of the experience, really.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds like for you two guys, having built guitars already, that this was a bit of an experience to do that. What I'm just wondering about, how do you think it would work for somebody completely new to guitar building? Is it like a 6-day course something that would help them, do you think?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think that it's more geared towards people that have never built a guitar before. They go through like step by step, and here's how you do everything, and they're fantastic that way. Like I said, we had a guy on our week that I'm pretty sure had never touched a drill before. Everything was brand new. Everything was like hands-on, needed instruction, and he was like panicking to finish at the end. The last day was like 3 or 4 of us who had already finished up, rushing around trying to finish up things for him so that he was going to be able to finish. And I think he's kind of the extreme on the far end of like zero experience. Me having, by the time I had been there, I'd built 11 or 12 guitars before I got there. So there was a lot of stuff that wasn't new, but it was like refining things. It was like learning little tips and tricks that like I would have learned 6-7 years down the road that just make life a lot easier. But it did mean that like I was done quite early. Guitar was totally assembled and good to go by 10 o'clock in the morning the last day. And there were quite a few situations where like I was kind of sitting around waiting for instruction about what to do next. I would love to see them have like an intermediate skill set course where like, okay, we're not going to go through how do you cut out a body on a bandsaw, right? You're just going to like, here, go. Here's some like next level stuff you could do. Because like I wanted to do, mess with binding, and I wanted to do some cool inlays, and I wanted to put a Bigsby on and like a bunch of stuff. And they were like, no, we need to rein all that back because of time wise. But by the end, James was like, yeah, you know what? Like, you probably could have done it because you have experience. You've done a lot of this stuff before. So I think the course is more geared towards people who have never done it before. I would love to see them do like an intermediate or advanced level course where you're doing more stuff.
I can't imagine trying to teach somebody in 6 days that had zero experience.
It was wild. I ended up doing a lot of teaching because Dom was helping other people, and they were like, "Okay, Cade, you know how to work a bandsaw. Can you go help this guy, please?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, I got this." So
sure, I'll put it on your bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, there was a lot of that helping back and forth. There was one of the things I learned. John Franco was there. John was a guitar tech for Avril Lavigne and others. And when it came time to wire up my guitar, my soldering is crap. But he's an electronics guy, so he came over and I'm going to set this up, and I had that weird multi-selector rotary switch. And I said, "Could you help me set this up?" He said, "Yeah, sure, but let me show you." And he showed me tricks on soldering that I had not. This has got to be the most neatly set up guitar cavity with the soldering. Yeah, he didn't have to do that. I would have figured it out too. But it's just there's a lot of back and forth between the tables.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about this? It's not just instructor and class, and everyone's working at a different pace. So the people there for a 2-week course or whatever, they're off doing their stuff. And Kate, if you'd said, "Okay, I'd like to come in, but I'm going to bring already finished body blanks because I want to learn about binding, and I want to," you can bring in body blanks. They'll start right in the middle, right?
That's interesting to know.
Yeah, it's not like okay, class, here's what we're doing now. It's it's individual instruction.
It's great to hear that it can be like that. I've just put a link into this video description to the time that we had Sean on previously talking about teaching, because I do remember him saying about how they differentiate to fit the different builders that are coming in and different people with different experiences. But yeah, having someone that hasn't used power tools next to someone that's built 11 guitars is totally different. So that is a skill they have to have.
Yeah, and like part of the thing with ours might have been just like the divide of experience, because it was like, I'm not going to say I'm on the extreme of the other end, but compared to Buddy who didn't know what a router was, he's super nice. I feel like I'm ragging on him really bad. He was a super nice guy. He was there to learn everything and just excited to be there. But I feel like him needing a lot more hands-on help, and then me who just needed to be told, like, hey, this is the next step we do in order, go do it, might have kind of exasperated the issue a little bit more.
So one question I've got then, have either of you had a chance to build a guitar since being on the course?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the Bowling for Soup one?
Bowling for Soup one, yeah.
Getting straight onto that. I'm going to share an image of that then. I forgot that was post the course. So were there particular things that you noticed you doing differently having done the course on this new guitar?
Fretwork was a big one. And then just like little tips and tricks, like fine tuning how like your control cavity cover fits and stuff like that. Doing little tips and tricks about like, here's how you really refine in your sanding and stuff like that, like busting on a card scraper rather than just sandpaper sometimes on certain angles and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just like little things that made life in general a lot easier.
It's cool to know that there are obviously, if someone's new, they've got the basics to learn, but it's cool to know that there's these little tricks and tips that you can take away that maybe aren't specifically on a list of what you need to teach someone, but they're really useful skills to make a guitar better.
Yeah.
So look, while I'm sharing it on screen, can you tell us a bit about this guitar?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to build a guitar for Jarrett Reddick of Bowling for Soup, who is in my mind a rock star. I know people are like, it's Bowling for Soup, it's whatever, but I've been listening to Bowling for Soup since I was in junior high, and I'm a huge fan. He made a post on Instagram about a guitar that he had, and I just like commented on it, and I was like, hey, I know you're coming to Edmonton here soon on tour. If you want another guitar, let me know. And he responded, and I peed myself a little bit, but he was like, yeah, man, 100%. I was like, oh okay. So we've been chatting back and forth on Instagram, and he told me basically, like, here's the pickups I want. I had a PRS that we recorded our first like 4 albums with, and I absolutely love it, but it got stolen or lost or something like that. So he was like, I would love another one. I was like, okay, I will do what I can. He's like, it's not going to be exactly the same. He said, nope, I don't want it to be exactly the same. I want it to be something that you made. Go to town. And then I got it all together. And when they came to Edmonton, I got to go backstage and give it to him and meet him, and he pulled me up on stage partway through the show to do some stuff, and it was super cool. He's taking it to his tech back in Texas right now to get it all set up, because like they were midway through a tour, so it sat in a cold van for a while. So gonna get it all set up and everything like that, and then he's gonna give me some feedback, and I'm hoping to learn a lot from this whole experience. But it was, talk about, again, surreal feelings.
Yeah, I bet. That's so cool as well that he responded and that you got to do it. So tell us about the woods, because it looks amazing. So like the top is just fantastic.
Yeah. So it's a maple burl for both the top and the back, magnolia body sandwiched in the middle of that. And then I'm trying to remember what I used for the neck. Oh, a flame maple. Or sorry, roasted maple for the neck, and an ebony fretboard.
Cool, and you've got that tilted head spot you were talking about before.
Yeah. I had to bust in the new bandsaw. So
So did you like share with him as the build was going along, or was it more of a surprise at the end?
so I was posting on Instagram and stuff, and he liked every post and commented. I'm pretty sure he turned notifications on for whenever I posted, because it was like within 5 minutes of me posting something, there was a like and a comment, and he seemed pretty excited about it. And then when I got there, their tour manager was like, "Oh, you're the guy. We've been all following what you've been doing." And like, yeah, so apparently
cool.
it became quite a thing on the tour bus. So
Oh, that's awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I hope you get to see photos of it being used sometime soon.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I've got the bug again to build something. It's just a friend of mine brought over a Ibanez hollow body, semi-hollow that he had, and it just doesn't play right and whatever. I said, bring it over. I've got my tools. I can, and so I just did a setup for it, and the bridge was out of position, and a little bit of the basic stuff. When I got done, that thing was playing like butter. It was great, and I'm like, okay, I really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
Then I recut a nut for my original Dragon guitar, which I had always wanted to put a bone nut on. So I recut a nut for that, and I was doing that in my apartment. Got that done. It worked out great. Now I'm like, okay, now I got to build something. I really got a knack. I got to get back to it. Oh, that one there. Actually, that's the one I want to tear down next. This is my last Dragon guitar.
I've got them in the wrong order. Okay, let me find the
Well,
one.
the Blue Dragon is the one I cut a new nut on, and that one started as a Crimson kit. I think people know that, but I did a few modifications, as you see. And but the second one was a completely original design. That is, I did no straight lines on that sucker. The red one. It is just, and it is when it comes down to it, in design it looked right, but when you see it in person and you actually sit down and play it, it's a bit jarring. It doesn't. It needs some symmetry. It's got some elements to it that are just. So I kind of want to do a little teardown on that. And there's one or two mistakes I made along the way. I don't like how the bridge turned out, so I want to tear that one down next and go do another bit of work on it. But I really am missing my tools, and looking forward to getting back having my workshop again. I may go to meet with some guys in Stockholm who have a guitar shop and see whether I can rent some space, because that would be fun.
I think it's great to go back to revisit things. Bill in the chat's talking about how he's about to do that. If you've got guitars like the one you said, Ray, that you feel like you need something changing on it, when you revisit it, because I've just found this, I went through my stock of guitars I built ages ago that I've never thought were good enough to sell, and there's so much I've learned since I built some of them 10 years ago that I can see what I need to do to change them. And there's some elements that I'd forgotten were actually great. I just sort of dismissed them in my head, and it was really fun revisiting that.
Yeah.
And I had a couple which I've totally revamped after 5 years, and ended up so happy with them, not just because of the outcome, but because of knowing that I've been able to improve on something because of my experience developing. And I bet that's something that's going to be great, having done that course, to go back and do all those small pieces, small changes.
A lot of my guitars are in storage right now, so I'm looking forward to getting back after having them stored for 3 years, and then pull them out of the box. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that'd be a good time.
Menno just said he calls his storage of bodies that haven't worked out his shelf of disappointment.
Yeah, I've got a crazy impractical idea. I'll just swing it out here because see if you guys think this would be fun, but it would never happen. But the Crimson site They got about 10, 12 workstations there. And we all kind of missed the Great Guitar Build-Off. What the funnest thing in the world is if we flew in the Guitar Builders Collective into Crimson and did a 1 week Great Guitar Build-Off, starting scratch and live stream the whole damn thing.
Ray, I'm there.
Well, we're at least since the first Great Guitar Build-Off, you see, these different TV shows like Forged in Fire and stuff like that. You can't help but think that a guitar building reality show would be awesome. It's such a slow process. It just wouldn't work.
But you could do a master cut at the end.
But yeah, something like like a week course at Crimson with a bunch of people that could be cool. It'd definitely be fun for the handful of us nerds that would get into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the good part about this is we're all at the different parts of the world, all around the world. The bad part is we're all around the world. It's really hard for us all to get together.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Canada wants to be representing us on the stage of the world. So
Eric's already suggested in the chat a way of getting everyone together. But yeah, as you point out, when we're all over the world, it's a bit harder, more expensive for others than to Crimson would be much easier than any of you. Well, maybe not than Dave, but
if some TV exec thought that this was a great idea and they could put $1 million into flying people around, but shame it'll never happen.
Well, look, Padre in the chat said he's already won 2 guitars on the guitar build-off, the Great Guitar Draw. So he's obviously a lucky guy. So if you can put some money on this weekend's lottery.
Yeah, hit the lotto. Okay, if anybody here hits the lotto, we're doing it, right?
That's not like a plan.
All right, I have got to run, guys. I've got to get into work and start handling my day. But
thanks, Ray. And to anyone that wants to, I've left a link for when Ray was last on, and we talked a lot then about AI design and digital design.
Yeah, I have not been able to make much progress on that, but it's still percolating in the back of my mind. That's one thing Ben and I have a little bit in common. You see it's a new technique or an idea, you kind of run at it, and you say, sometimes you run out of energy or time to finish it, but it still stays back there kind of churning. I think we could do that. So, and if I also did a kind of a life blog of my experiences at Crimson. If anyone wants to go back and watch that and see, it was basically day one. Man, I'm tired. This kind of stuff. But give you the real-time impressions.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll put a link for your YouTube in the description as well. Thanks again, Ray.
Okay, guys, thanks for hosting. Thanks for inviting me back. See you later. Nice meeting you, all y'all.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Yeah, well, the whole idea of everyone getting together, there's no we sort of have a sort of way of everyone doing things together, which is the Jörg's Cup, which sort of happens every year. It's themed. This year's theme is the idea of making something where you've got all of the timber. I think timber is what we call it. I think some of you might call it lumber. Is that right? Lumber, which just seems like a made-up word to me, but there you go. All the lumber from a hardware store. And in general, most people seem to be, when they're taking part in the build, sharing things on Instagram, etc. But, maybe we can find a way of putting lots of people's builds together in one video. I'm sure coming the end of it, Corey will be on here doing a bit of a review of what people have built on one of the live streams. But there might be another way to get things together. Mick suggested we should start a podcast where we all get together every week and chat. Brad's still keen on the idea, although it's logistically quite hard to sort it out yet, of having a day when there is a live stream where anyone can come in live from their workshop and just chat to people. You can either see what people are doing or just be there on the screen chatting or in the chat join in if you don't want to be on the screen. So I think there may be other ways around it now, but that idea of getting loads of people in a room together would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of making a guitar in 6 days is probably something we should consider.
Yeah.
I always love those 24-hour builds. I think it was the 24-hour builds that got me inspired to build, because I thought, if someone can build a guitar in 24 hours, then surely I can build a guitar.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I still, in the back of my mind, want to do a 24-hour build. It's still there. It's still there.
I think he did didn't he do a 12-hour and then a ridiculous 6-hour thing as well?
Yeah. One of the most inspirational pieces of YouTube ever was Ben's 24-hour build. That wound up being like 25, but that was the first one that I really saw that I it almost seemed within, your capabilities vaguely within grasp, but at the same time, was something, to aspire to.
That's such a coincidence, Scott, because I felt the same way. It's like I would never start building guitars unless some weirdo thought he could build one within 24 hours. And I thought, oh man, you're just rushing through those things like that. Surely I can do one in a week or 2 weeks. You know?
Yeah, but in that 24-hour build, it was just, things happened fast, but he used a plane to radius the fretboard. It was clear that he was completely a craftsman, and the woodwork was a big part to him. But I remember the first time seeing him, it was so strange seeing him do with tattoos and shit on his head. It was stopping in the middle of building and trying to, decide whether or not the sentence he just put together was correct. It was.
I appreciated that as an English teacher.
Yeah. I was worried about his English and pronunciation, and it just cracked me up.
Yeah, there are definitely things about Ben that make watching him compelling. There's things about lots of different channels that appeal to me. Some channels, it's the way it's filmed. Some channels, it's what they make. But not just having the skill Ben has, but I find his personality quite entertaining as well, and the stories that he tells, and the clear knowledge that he's sharing as well.
Yeah. And it's always a question, he sort of says, well, I can do it this way, but in actual fact, I think I'm going to do it this other way, which is, 10 times more complicated.
Yeah.
But that is the fun of guitar making, isn't it? Is that, sort of thinking, getting to a sort of crossroads and then going down the way that is actually the most difficult bit. And it's how you learn, isn't it? How you learn. Yeah.
I'm just sharing that people in the chat, I don't know how serious some of them are, talking about how long it's taking them to make guitar builds. I've become acutely aware of my inability to finish builds, which is a real problem as someone who has a business that can only make money by selling finished guitars. So, I've already made my New Year's resolution of a way to try to fix all that. But for the rest of the year, I'm going off on random tangents and having a bit of fun. I find the problem with YouTube and the problem with talking to all you other builders is it inspires me to do things that mean starting something new, which is great, but not perfect for living off of anyway.
I understand. I was about to say that, like, for me, it's like the low-hanging fruit. Like, those projects are way more fun and satisfying than like the long build. Mm-hmm. And they're also a little bit more rewarding too. But I understand where you're coming from, Daniel. It's really hard to like.
I got mixed feelings there, because one of the things that drew me into it was the fact that it wasn't fast. It was a process. You couldn't just go do it. It took time. You got to wait for things to dry, and you got to wait. Yeah, part of that there is something alluring in there to me. I can't really put a finger on it, but I do know. Tasks that you can get accomplished in a short amount of time, they really are more, they give you enough sense of accomplishment to keep you going. Unfortunately, I've recently discovered that it doesn't have to be guitar building. Anything crafty, I have fun with. So lately I've just crap I printed, on the 3D printer, that trying to figure out how to, smooth things completely, make all the layer lines go away, getting a little practice with my airbrush, doing some stuff like that. I can still, have fun spending the whole day in the shop, and in the end, it doesn't look like I really got that much accomplished. But I do have a guitar drawn, sitting on the bench, waiting for me to start it, though. So I need to get back.
Have you already got a next guitar planned, or next rock star you're going to approach?
Not a rock star. My next build that I'm doing is I'm reworking the body of a previous build, and then that's going to get auctioned off for my local children's hospital. So I'll be doing that here in the next, couple of weeks. I really should have been doing that this week. Yeah.
And am I right that you said this is you've got a week of school holidays?
Yeah, I'm off this week.
And for building them. And in case we hadn't mentioned that before, that's because Cade's a teacher. Of course, you just mentioned you're an English teacher.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was on air or off air. Kate is not necessarily at school. I'd be intrigued to go back to school and learn guitar building now. We had Nick from Petrek Guitars on, and I think he was talking about the place that he learned in Germany to build guitars. Some people do a proper 3 years of just learning to build bows for stringed instruments.
Oh, geez.
So that level of skill and talent and experience that you must get from doing that sounds incredible.
Yeah. Might be a bit boring, I think.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm enjoying about hearing people talk about the Crimson course is I did a course in guitar building, and it was at a place I'd already done a course on wood finishing, so learning to French polish and things like that. And then I'd done a course there on using air guns and things. So those were brilliant courses taught by really experienced people, and they were very much crash courses, short courses. So then I started off an evening course of guitar building, thinking it would be the same, just like not making a guitar start to finish, but learning certain processes and things. But the first lesson, an hour and a half, all we did was sharpen cabinet scrapers. It was so boring. And yes, it's a skill that you need to learn, but it was just taught in such a different way. There was no kind of emphasis on the technicalities of guitar building. It was on all the skills you need. Everything is as important as each other, and you start from the beginning and you get your finished guitar when you finish, which means that a lot of people on that course will do one course and not get anywhere, not have anything finished. And then there are other people that are on that course for their 7th time and they've nearly finished their guitar. It was just a weird setup I didn't like.
But I mean, what's your view on sharpening chisels? Because it's one of those things that I actually really enjoy doing. Sadly, I watched a video from a guy called David Charlesworth. I don't know if you've seen him. He's a sort of a master carpenter. He's an hour-long video on sharpening a chisel, and I sat there with my daughter, who's never forgiven me for that. But it was a fantastic eye-opener, and
I think sharpening tools is the intern's job. I need to get myself an intern. I don't want to. My chisels are basically just paperweights. Like, I literally don't use them ever. I have like 2 planes that are in a box somewhere, and I refuse to sharpen them. Like, one day I'm gonna have an intern that will like vacuum my floors and then sharpen all my tools. That's my dream.
I'm sure you'll get a computer to do it at some point. You could build a 3D printing chisel sharpening machine. You can already get robotic vacuum cleaners, so
Yeah.
it won't be long. I bought a new set of chisels last year, and it was the first time I bought nice chisels. I only ever bought like cheap sets, and they were amazing, so much better and such a pleasure to work with. And I then watched a number of YouTube clips on how to sharpen your chisels. I bought the setup that I wanted to sharpen my chisels on. I haven't sharpened them. It's been a year. I haven't needed to yet, but at some point, I'll find a good film on Netflix and maybe do it then.
Yeah.
I had one of those nice little honing guides, and I left it in the wrong place, and it rusted up, and it's ruined. It's one of those skills I would really like to have. I hate having to spend time trying to sharpen stuff, especially knowing that I'm not going to do a good job of it. But I do wish I had the skill. I wish I could just take a day, bang it all out, and sharpen everything.
Well, it's interesting because what I found watching all those YouTube clips is there's so many different techniques. So I found the one that I thought would be the quickest way to get something sharp, that would be the cheapest and most straightforward. Still haven't done it though.
I'll tell you, one of the best tricks that I found, just very quickly, was to put a bit of permanent pen along the edge, and then just draw it slowly across your sharpening stone and see where it's taken it off. And once you've done that, you know you've just got to take it off on the edge there. Once you've done that, you can get it really nice and sharp. And there's nothing like a sharp chisel. Well, I'm just thinking, perhaps there's a business in sharpening chisels here.
Yeah.
Hey, people used to go around knocking on doors to sharpen knives and kitchen utensils. So, look, we haven't got long left, and I wanted to bring up a couple of things. So, Kate, you mentioned just now selling a guitar, auctioning a guitar for charity. I've already mentioned the Movember, which I put the link to your Movember site,
page or whatever. Yeah.
But I noticed on Instagram you're talking about you're doing something in the next few days as well, fundraising.
Yeah, so in addition to Movember, I'm doing what's called Extra Life, which is a fundraiser for children's hospitals all around North America. And with that, I'm doing a 24-hour live streaming marathon thing, and I'm combining it with my Movember. So I'm fundraising for both charities at the same time. So starting tomorrow at about 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, I'll be jumping onto my Twitch page, and I'll be streaming for the next 24 hours, playing some video games and chatting about guitars and just kind of hanging out for the full 24. And trying to raise as much money as I can. I do this every year, and we'll see how much I can help.
Fantastic. So look, I put a link to your Instagram, and if people follow that, they'll find your guest link tree that links off to all of those things. Fantastic. And thank you for being here. It was brilliant.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I love hearing it mountain time. That sounds so exotic to me. That's so cool. For those of you that are interested, though, time zones are a bit of a confusion at the moment for me, because trying to set up all the future streams where everyone's time's changing has been a bit different. But we're now set on different time zones. We're set that almost all our streams will be the same time this one was today. So that's 1 p.m. for me in the UK and 7 a.m. for Scott and Mark in Texas. Then we've got the ones that we normally do at the end of the month will be 9 a.m. for us in the UK and 8 p.m. for people in Australia, but in the Melbourne area of Australia, whatever that time zone is. AET, I think it is, Australian Eastern Time, possibly. And we're actually doing one at that time next week. So 9 a.m. UK time next week. And you can find the link to that one in the video description, the podcast description. It's got a link to all future episodes as well under our playlist. And that's got Sean coming in from Arran Lutherie, also from Crimson Guitars, talking about teaching at Crimson Guitars. Also, there will be Brad from BB Guitars, who teaches guitar making. Glyn from Mr. Glyn's Pickups, who spent many years teaching guitar making. And Aaron's going to be there as well. Arran from Adair Guitars is a teacher, and I'll be there too. And as some of you might know, I've got a background in teaching. So although Arran and myself don't teach guitar making, hopefully we'll have some thoughts to ask the guitar teachers about their methodology or their approach that could help maybe inform a lot of us, because a lot of us make YouTube videos, and that is basically teaching educational stuff. On that note, I've got a link to Mark, Scott's and Dave's YouTube videos below as well. I'm saying below or in the wherever you find the description for today. And just a thank you to everyone that watches the show, that supports the show. It's all much appreciated.
Excellent.
On that note, at exactly 1:30, an hour and a half long, I'm going to say thank you again, Cade. Thanks, Scott, Dave, Mark. Also, obviously, Ray, who's gone, and all of you in the chat. See you next week.
See you then. Cheers.
Thanks.
See ya.
Later, guys.
The Guitar Builders Collective is a group of like-minded people from all around the world at different stages of their guitar building journey. You can join us over on our forum to seek advice or share tips on guitar building processes, materials and tools, or just to share your builds. On YouTube, we have a regular podcast of guitar building chat where you can join the live stream or watch back on past episodes. Our Instagram page shares posts of members' builds and links you direct to their accounts. And for those of you on Facebook, we've got a private group that you can join, share and chat along with. The Guitar Builders Collective is a welcome and open space for all, so do pop by and say hi.